This is the Final Words story time, number 246. Jeff Lemon and Adam Collins coming to you from the Hitz Cricket nets.
Play the hits.
Play the hits underneath the railway lines at Bethnal Green, where we will be playing the hits momentarily.
Do you remember the time when you and I stayed accidentally in a brothel in Bethnal Green?
Yes.
That sounds like the sort of thing, when you accidentally, like it's a euphemism.
Oh, I didn't realise. I just thought I was getting an ordinary sports massage.
Yes, an ordinary sports massage. This was where Dan Brettig very kindly was putting you and I up in a room that he has rented off Airbnb.
Yep.
And it became increasingly obvious to all three of us that it was a room that you usually rent by the hour.
Yes, not a room. Yeah, let's say there wasn't a lot of bedding. That didn't seem to be a priority.
No.
Other facilities that you might expect with an extended stay of, say, 12 hours.
No.
Those things were not there.
This was more a bench.
This was more a transit point.
Yes.
There was, I always enjoyed at Eltham train station. If you've ever had the pleasure of visiting Eltham train station, I don't know if you've had. Don't know if you have. One of my friends, I remember.
You never know if you never go. I remember Daryl Summers the other week.
I remember my friend Sarah taking her first visit to Eltham. She got off the train and a guy walked up to her and said, "Oh, hey, do you want to chuck in for a chuff?" And she was like, that was my first experience in Eltham. That was my first interaction in Eltham. And it is a reasonable question. Do you want to chuck in for a chuff? Nonetheless, when you've left the train at Eltham Station, there's a place where you can go and catch a bus instead. There's a seat and there's a little roof cover. And if you thought for a million years about what you would name this, what would you call that? The point where you switch from one version of transport to another, you would probably not come up with the Eltham Modal Interchange. But that is what it was called. The bench with a little roof over it was the Eltham Modal Interchange.
There you go.
So that's what I'm thinking.
Get on the bench.
That's what the room, it was the hotel equivalent of a modal interchange.
Noted. So that's where we are. Hits, it's quite good. I can't wait to when we finish this recording to have
We're going to get through this episode quickly so we can have a nap.
To have a Barbara Shett. We are indeed. I cannot wait.
Joan Jett.
Before we start, I'm just going to say that I've got my bat here, got my stick, got one or two of my bats that have got Lord's Taverners. I'll put this in the camera too. Lord's Taverners bat grips on them, both the lovely bits of kit that I use. Anyway, the reason I raise that is because lots of people are signing up for Edinburgh already, including Ben, who I met last night. He rocked up at our book launch. He'd never been to a Final Word thing before. No. He's fresh off the boat, straight here from Australia. And Randolph Brazier, who's a good friend of ours, who's ran in Edinburgh with us a couple of times, he immediately recruited him straight away to be part of our world in Edinburgh next year for the Tabs.
Mate.
Isn't that
good? Do you like running?
And I've done,
interested in running?
And I did the same thing. I've recruited into ODB to play cricket for us next year. So, Ben, if you're listening, welcome.
Yeah, that's what you need, more Australians in ODB.
Well, we like to have about no more than like sort of 4 in an 11, but sometimes it does blow out. There will be Aussies galore in that. That is true, and there will be lots of people in Edinburgh. I say that because this is the time to sign up. If you want to be part of it, just WhatsApp me. It's pretty easy to get my number, or email me adam@finalwordcricket.com.
Don't give your number out on the internet.
I'm just saying, it's too late. It's way. My phone number's been on a million press releases. It is too late. Adam@finalwordcricket.com. If you want to go that way, and I'll link you up with Sadiq at the Tabs. You'll be running with us, a team of 50 strong. We want new blood. We don't want to dissuade others from coming again because it has been such a brilliant weekend. But May the 25th and 26th, I think it is, in 2026. Nominations now, marathon, half marathon, 10K. You know the drill if you know the show, and it raises all the money for the Tabs, who, by the way, raised a nice little parcel of money through our book launch last night in the raffle, which was great.
We've got the book right here, Bedtime Tales for Cricket Tragics. The London launch has been and gone. The Melbourne launch is November 27th, not December 27th. I had this conversation with a gentleman last night who was very keen to come during the Boxing Day test, and I had to explain that it was in fact a month before that.
It's November more likely 27th. On the 27th of December we will do something at Stomping Ground.
We'll
have a beer at Stomping. I mean, I'm not saying we're doing an event that night at Stomping Ground, but it's more likely that's where we will be that night. Not the commercial club. We will be drinking Stomping Ground on the 27th of November with the free keg of beer they're providing for the launch.
That's right.
There you go.
On the 27th of December we'll likely be going to Collingwood to the brewery
to the Carrying Bush
because we're celebrating a new partnership with Stomping Ground, who make wonderful beer in Melbourne. But this book, it's out. It's available to pre-order. It's not officially available in Australia yet. But you can order them in the UK to be sent to you by the UK publisher. It's full of stories that have been sent by people who listen to the show, and we had a lovely moment last night, Adam, because every story, every number that's created a story that's in this book, the person who sent it is name-checked on the title page for that story. So Mark Edelstein came up and asked me to sign his copy of the book without realising that he's in the book. And so when we opened it to the page that had his name on it, because he sent one of the stories, he was duly surprised because he didn't actually realise that
it's a really lovely
he
part of the
one
book.
Of the stories.
It's a really, really nice. It's part of the incentive to sign up to our Patreon. You might end up in the next edition of Bedtime Tales for Cricket Tragics. If I say it enough, I'll manifest it. I'll make it real. Jeff,
for that to happen, you've got to buy the first copy because they have to see good enough figures to want us to do another one.
And for all this to happen, we're grateful to Maurice Blackburn Lawyers, Australia's #1 plaintiff law firm, our overarching series sponsor in 19 again. So good to have them. More about them later. But first, we need to do the thing we're here to do, Jeff, which is
Nerd Pledge. Oh, you can do that.
Quite well. Quite a cavernous.
Yeah.
It's the right kind of room for that type of thing.
It was louder than the trains that go overhead here.
Yep.
Nerd Pledge is a game that we play with nice people on the internet. They get on Patreon, they sign up as a member to subscribe, to support the show. It's voluntary, they don't have to do it, but they do it out of the goodness of their own hearts. And they send through not an ordinary amount of currency that you might expect to be issued by the Royal Mints, but an amount of currency of their choosing, a specific one that relates to cricket in some way. And we then have to figure out what it means. This first number comes in from Matt May, very much a friend of the show, perhaps more than a friend of the show. Perhaps that relationship has gone to another. In some countries, Matt May might be a de facto of the show, depending on a residential partner of the show. But still takes the time to send through a pledge, even though Matt helps us with other people's pledges at other times. It is $11.76.
75. It's $11.75, and this couldn't have come up any better. Look, over the years with Nerd Pledge and over the years with Storytime, numbers have just happened unexpectedly and perfectly for us. Like they've led us to a link in the chain, or maybe like 3 stories in one episode all come together.
Fate. And when I get to the one that I'm going to do, it will be even more so. It will underline the ridiculousness of how this comes together sometimes without it being planned. But you just wait. You just wait. If you're listening to this, hang in until we get to my one, because your one, the synchrony is wild.
This is insane fate. Like I said to you on Sunday, I've got a story I wish to tell on Remembrance Day 2025. And in order to tell it, I'm going to have to manufacture something from the numbers that are on our spreadsheet for this week.
Force a link to someone else's number.
Correct. I'm going to have to muck around with this. And what do you know? 11.75 for Matt May.
Was next on
November
the list.
75. Literally the next number on the list. So even though Matt May's clue is if he were English, we would hear about it every year, and it's a bit rogue. I think he's talking about the 1st of November 75, not 1975, but the 1st of November 75 AD. I'm pretty sure that's what Matt May... No, in fact, I think the chat suggests that's what he's after, which is very Matt, very esoteric. If I've read the chat correctly...
The 1st of 11.75, the 1st of January?
Yeah, maybe it was, whatever it was. No, I think it was something that happened in November 75, either way.
Okay, 75 AD.
Yes. Instead, I'm going to do something that happened in November 1975.
What happens then? It's not...
I don't know.
Constantine converts to Christianity.
I really don't know.
Even that's later than that.
But Matt, I'm good for it. We will do that answer. I'll do it on a revisit at some point. You'll trust me that I've got something better anyway. Probably have. So, right, anyway, we are recording on Remembrance Day, some 107 years after the armistice that ended the First World War. But also another thing happened on that date. Remember the 11th of November 1975, 50 years today since Gough Whitlam's government was dismissed by Governor General Kerr. Now, I feel like I'm duty bound to give a quick summary of this for our non-Australian listeners, because this will sound... Look, we could probably do 5 hours on this, and let's not do that. We can do 5 minutes on it just to get into the groove here. So the Whitlam government... You may not
be aware, but the Dollop just did an episode on the dismissal with Jen Fricker.
Oh, that'll be good.
I cannot.
Yeah, that'll be good.
What a combo.
So, I mean, it is a pretty loose story. I mean, no matter how you... Let's just go back to... So May 74, the Whitlam government, who were elected in 72, are re-elected after the double dissolution that Whitlam initiated after the... So Whitlam appointed a DLP senator to be the ambassador to Ireland, and one thing led to another, and that shut off the Liberal Party at the time sufficiently, with Billy Seddon as leader, died on the job, to as the Truth once had as their back page when I mean that's a horrible thing to do to someone after he died, but that's what they did to him, and they because he did. Where am I?
You're distracting yourself.
I'm distracting myself.
Island
Ambassador.
Ambassador. PLP.
And it led towards the opposition at the time starting to threaten to block appropriation bills and money bills, and that's what happened, right? So then Whitlam had the trigger, Whitlam had the trigger to go to the Governor-General, Paul Hasluck, and he got the double dissolution, had the trigger. The election on the 14th of May 1974? The reason I know that is it was the same day as the bloodbath at Windy Hill. Essendon and Richmond beating the suitcase out of each other in the afternoon, and Whitlam gets re-elected in the evening. 18th of May, I did write it down. So it's a messy Senate. So he did get his majority back, Whitlam, in the lower house, but it's a slimmed majority. He's got 61 seats. The parliament was smaller then. In the Senate, even messier, 29 out of the 60 seats are with the government. These days, a government would kill to have that close to a majority. Yeah. You'd love to have 21
one Jackie
vote.
Lambie.
Then it was very unusual. Usually the Senate did go the way of the government because there were fewer minor parties and that type of thing. So yes, same day of Mal Brown and Jerker Jenkins and grabbing him by the balls and beating the shit out of each other, and the club, the club committee member punching on, and the umpires were trying to separate the trainers from punching on. There were like crowd members who were involved in the fight as well. This is at Windy Hill. Okay. This is at Windy Hill on election day. Anyway, Labor wins. Only time there's been the joint sitting. I didn't know this.
Huh.
They've never, because the double dissolution, the catalyst, you can have the joint sitting to pass the bills that have been held up in the Senate.
Stacking up in the queue.
So, but this actually happened. They did pass the bills in a joint sitting of the Parliament when they returned later in 1974. It gets messier and messier though. There's the oil crisis, there's the recession, then there's the Genlani loans affair when Rex Connor as Treasurer tries to do a cool deal for $4 billion with a shady Middle Eastern businessman, which, didn't go over too well at the time as it was bypassing what was at the time there was infrastructure around how you could and couldn't finance appropriations, or how you could finance the country, and he was going around that to bring money in a different way to get more cash in.
Right.
Cash. What I'm looking for is cash shopper, cash. So I'm not saying this was good, but it was messy. Borrowing money in the Middle East to dodge the Constitution, Jim Cairns was involved in that.
These days, $40 billion to Argentina, no worries.
Yeah. Jim Cairns was involved in that, and he was Deputy Prime Minister, and that was the same time as the Ginny Morosi affair, where he started shagging his secretary, cheating on his wife. That became a total scandal. It blew up his time as Deputy Prime Minister. So the only reason I raised that is that the loans affair plus the Morosi affair. By the way, I've been played a game of cricket with a bloke called James Cairns. And Sheen and I immediately, we were talking about Ginny Morosi on the cricket field and whatnot, which is probably the first time that's happened in 50 years. G'day if you're listening, Jim.
Your references are older than one would expect for a man of your age.
Yeah, that's right. Oh, it was there. You've got to take it when it's there. So Fraser had the momentum to basically do what Seddon had tried before the election. So Malcolm Fraser, leader of the opposition, and the next thing that played up was that Labor... there was a justice going from the Senate, a Labor senator. Whitlam was advised against removing a Labor senator, but he did it anyway because gonna do it anyway. Barry from East End this time. I'm going to send him to be a justice, and in turn, I'm going to permit this to happen. There's going to be a casual vacancy, and as is the convention, the New South Wales Parliament will replace the senator with one of the same party, as happens all the time. That is the convention, except the New South Wales Parliament didn't do that. They didn't let a Labor senator replace the Labor senator, and Bjelke-Petersen did the same thing in Queensland. I think the Queensland senator might have changed allegiance after Bjelke-Petersen appointed them. Either way, the Senate became even more bolstered against the government. And that's the point when Fraser realised he had a chance to, right there and then, destroy Whitlam. And he was in dialogue with Kerr, and I think from memory, Whitlam permitted that. He permitted Kerr to have a conversation with Fraser, and that was the...
So the Governor-General's been...
They changed, yes.
By this
yes,
point.
That's right. And Whitlam did appoint Kerr as Governor-General. This wasn't someone who he anticipated becoming, an enemy, as it were, but very much did. He enjoyed the stylings and, the top hats and the tails and and so on. He really he became addicted to that type of thing. And Whitlam went to him on this day in 1975 asking for a half Senate election to break the deadlock and try and do it that way, right? Which wasn't that uncommon, having a half Senate election outside of general election cycles. That used to happen. There was one in 1970. And the Governor General said, instead, actually, Gough, you're sacked. So he sacked him in the morning, and that was, to become one of the most extraordinary days in Australian political history.
So people don't understand the way the dynamic works. The Prime Minister appoints the Governor General and can sack a Governor General, but a Governor General can also sack a Prime Minister, so it depends who gets in first, basically.
I guess that's true. Yeah, that's true.
And the Governor General, being the royal representative in Australia, is officially acting on behalf of Her Majesty, as it was at the time, and can say, I'm going to dissolve the Parliament and force a new election.
Yeah, for a long time there was the theory that the Palace had a greater understanding of this than was the case. The Palace Papers, there was
Palace
Letters, but they proved to be
uncovered after some.
Jenny Hocking, wasn't it? The academic.
Incredible work.
He did a lot of work.
Decades to get those.
And they
released.
didn't end up. There wasn't a smoking gun when they got released, unfortunately. From those who would love there to have been some conspiracy, to the best of my understanding, there wasn't.
Hand-drawn sketch of the moon landing.
Yeah, there wasn't a conspiracy. They were just acting the way that they typically would. There was correspondence
and Governor General,
and I think it was the Queen's Secretary, wasn't it, who was corresponding with the Governor General Secretary and keeping him updated. And
Probably.
Anyway, so Whitlam sacked, and then he famously walks out. I think this is a bit misunderstood about Whitlam. People think that killed his career. Not really. It's a little bit like James Hird at Essendon. People think that Hirdy never got another chance. People forget that he came back to coach the year after the suspensions, and they sacked him halfway through that season. Whitlam was opposition leader until the 1977 election. He got pumped again.
Yeah.
So there's the election in 75, which Fraser, who's by that point caretaker Prime Minister, maintain your rage and enthusiasm election, which doesn't go the way of Whitlam, despite the angst in the community about the means in which the Governor General dismissed him.
Yeah.
He still got.
He has his chance
beaten.
to get elected, to get re-elected twice, and it doesn't happen. So it's not stolen.
No,
from him.
Gough's a giant of the nation. But he was an unsuccessful candidate into subsequent federal elections, and he did, by any yardstick, lead a shambolic government towards the end. That's informed Hawke entirely. Hawke was very aware of how badly it had gone under Whitlam and was never going to allow that, which is why he was such a consensus builder. And you could argue that was a shortcoming of Hawke, if you wish. But
look, shambolic, but they got some shit done.
They did, early days especially. First term, very successful. Second term, messy.
We got shit done that Tories are still trying to tear apart 50 years later.
Indeed.
We got Medicare, we got the Australia Council for the Arts.
And free uni. Medibank and free
for
uni.
a while.
Yeah,
they got free
it's all
uni.
HECS.
They killed free uni in the end.
But they did get it. Those who were from that generation, they did get free uni for about 15 years before HECS came in, and there was a loan system. Anyway, so Fraser wins the thumping majority, and that is 50 years ago in a nutshell. The democratic rule being overturned by the Crown's rep remains loose and remains wrong. It shouldn't have happened. In my opinion and the opinion of many. I think that the Prime Minister today described it as a plot, and I think by any reasonable reviewing of, obviously we all studied this at uni, right? It was a plot. Kerr and Fraser were obviously in cahoots at the end. You can hardly you can be a supporter of what Malcolm Fraser did as a politician and still accept the fact that he was clearly working with John Kerr to oust Whitlam, because he ousted Whitlam after meeting with Fraser.
Yes.
They were working together.
He was clearly a lot more crook then than he was later, because later on Fraser became relatively reasonable.
Well, as is the way with a lot of politicians when they get a bit older. Anyway, so that's 50 years ago in a nutshell. But I thought, let's have a quick, because of the way my brain's hardwired, I was curious what was going on in cricket that day. And you know what?
November 75.
11th to the 11th, there was one first-class game going on. It was the final day of a Sheffield Shield clash between WA and Queensland. Just the fifth game of that season. And as we know from the book,
that summer?
as we know from the book, nights when the Windies are en route.
West Indies, yeah, they're on the way.
They're about to hit the tarmac in Papua New Guinea.
They're about, which happens a month before Bellabo.
That's right, which is the
Before
same
the
time
Bellabo
as this. Didn't we work out that this was around 2 weeks after Whitlam had been dismissed? the Windies arrive in PNG, and then they...
And Richie Benno's up there at the party. The fact that there's archival footage of the function of the speeches being given at the function with Benno and the canapes and the wild shirt and all the rest of it, it's amazing that it's out there, you can find it.
Yeah, there was an article in The Age only a couple of weeks ago. So Peter Hanlon, Tommy Hanlon from The Age, or long-term Age writer, who listens to our show, by the way, wrote a Age article about the PNG thing, and I said to him, by the way, that's also in our book. But he got there first. Good on him. He published it a couple of weeks ago, and that has been there for all to read, and we've got it in
Well, it was on the podcast ages ago.
No, but he didn't. He wasn't aware that it was genuine, that he got told about it and went off and researched the story and spoke to a few of the West Indians.
Well, I wonder how
that type of thing. No, I wouldn't for a moment. He was pitching it to us.
If somebody...
He was pitching it to me to try and get it pitched to somewhere else. It wasn't there was nothing untoward there.
I'm not saying it's untoward. I'm saying someone might have heard the story. And
they may have.
I think it was a Barrett story, that one.
No, it was me.
Was he?
Yeah, it was me.
He was the other part of Papua New Guinea and the Trobriand Islands.
Yep.
That was one of his.
So where are we? So yeah, the cricket that day. Right. So it's WA hosting Queensland. This is just after that 1975 England trip, which included the inaugural World Cup. So, that's some Australian team. And these Shield teams are brilliant as well. A game that began on the 8th and ended on the 11th of November. Queensland 2-11. This gets fun. Queensland 2-11, leading the way for WA. Wasn't Dennis Lilly, it was Ian Brayshaw, father of, it was Jamie Brayshaw, now James Brayshaw, who played first-class cricket for WA and SA and had an excellent Shield record, especially against Victoria. But Ian Brayshaw picked up career best figures of 10 for 44 against Victoria in the late 60s, and that's the last time that anyone in Australian cricket picked up a 10 for. So James Brayshaw's dad has that.
The last time that anyone in Australian cricket
took a 10-wicket innings.
Oh, 10 in innings, okay.
Took all 10.
Yeah, sure.
Took all 10.
It's like in a match.
Unlucky not to play Test cricket. Looked at his record when preparing his answer, and Ian Brayshaw, he must have been pretty bloody close at this time as an all-rounder, but especially as a bowler. That included him getting Greg Chappell caught behind cheaply. So a strong Queensland team. Then WA made 157. Lilly picked up 2 with the ball. Then Tomo took 6 for 47, playing for Queensland. That included Bruce Laird, Wally Edwards, who played a couple of Test matches in the previous summer and went on to become the chairman of Cricket Australia. Rod Marsh and Lilly himself, his sparring partner, well, not sparring partner, his opening bowling partner, Thompson, getting him out. Jeff Dimmock takes the rest, including Kim Hughes, John Inverarity and Ian Brayshaw, 2 very, very strong Shield teams here. And remarkably, I couldn't believe this when I saw this, a baby Terry Alderman. Terry Alderman played in this game as a 19-year-old boy, bowling with, the aforementioned Dennis Lilly and so on. Queensland second dig, Mick Malone takes 5 for 72, Queensland get 293, Greg Chappell 29 of those. WA set 346 on the final day, this day 50 years ago, and they only get to 251. So they're defeated by 96 runs. Tomo 4 more to complete a 10-wicket match, and Brayshaw, the all-rounder, who I've name-checked a couple of times, top scored for WA in the chase with 60. Down the bottom of the card, 18,313 people attended. Healthy crowd across the very healthy, actually. You'd never see a Shield crowd like that these days. A gate taking of $11,849. Give it to Rex Connor. That's a better way of funding the country. Also listed down the bottom, 12th man that day for WA, Rick Charlesworth. The man who did it all, political link, went on to become the member for Perth from 1983 until 1990, I'm pretty sure. WA captain, another who could have played Test cricket, captain of the Hockey Roos, and coached both the men and the women to Olympic gold. So everyone is on this scorecard. All 50 years ago today, which I reckon Matt will appreciate. We can redress what happened in November 75 another time. That's what happened 50 years ago on the 11th of November. Remembrance Day, 1975. Remember.
Very good.
Maintain your rage.
Maintain
and your enthusiasm.
And your enthusiasm. Yes, it was 50 years ago today that Sergeant Pepper told the band to play. Good, I like that, Adam. We're going to go to a break a little earlier. A word for the VPN Maestros.
Why not?
So those at Nord with the purple backing. the ones that we use, the ones that I need to use because I'm in the UK right now, and so I can't access things that I would access in Portugal, or I can't access things that I would access in Australia. And then I'll be in Australia and I won't be able to access things that I could access here or there. And so I need a magical internet device that will tell the internet that I am in fact in the country that it wants me to be in when I want to access the thing that I want to access. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. It also provides you with security online too. A lot of VPNs, a lot of people feel about VPNs, what's actually, these guys are ruthless about making sure that your data is protected. I feel that more and more. I'm pretty blasé about...
It's a protective casing around your information, if you will. It's a prophylactic
A big tarp
device
around it.
Yep.
Yes. I sometimes feel that way when I'm online. I'm like, oh gosh, what's going on here?
Especially you're plugging into some Wi-Fi network at a bus station in, I don't know, Curitiba or something as you're going across Brazil. And
there's often a bit of
who's
that.
Actually in control of this? Oh, just input your username and password into this website. You're like, what is the URL of this website? Is it actually connected to where I thought I came through from? Or have I been sent somewhere else?
Well, I'll tell you what, they wouldn't have cracked my NordVPN. They weren't watching Celebrity Traders with me.
No.
Give you that for nothing. I ran into that. I crossed in the stairs. Nick Mohammed, who finished in the final 3 of that last week, who seemed a very lovely chap, but fuck me, how soft was he at the end? Just he basically didn't go to endgame, even though he knew Alan was a traitor. He knew it. He knew Alan was a traitor, just because he really didn't want Alan to be a traitor. Soft. Too good a bloke.
I wish I could identify with this with you. But
a lot of people will. It's like millions and millions of people watched the finale live in England last week. So that will ring true with some of our audience here.
If you're travelling, if you want security, or even if you're not travelling but you want to be able to access, I don't know, it might be like, I want to listen to this French radio station, but their digital stream is geo-blocked and you have to be in France to listen to it. Okay, you can be in France. You don't have to travel there. You can NordVPN there. A couple of bucks a month. Cheap as chips, money back guarantee. You get discounts anyway if you use our link, and you get free months. Go and have a look, nordvpn.com/TFW. Break time.
This is Storytime 246, brought to you by Maurice Blackburn Lawyers, Australia's #1 plaintiff law firm. We've told you a couple of days ago on the weekly show about one really horrible situation where one of the clients they worked with was accidentally shot. Another one here which relates to workplace bullying, another area where Maurice Blackburn have been able to support their client Tracy, she was a union delegate fighting for workers' rights, and then she became so afraid to leave her house that it really affected her time at work. It was to do with workplace bullying. The original claim wasn't honoured, and having developed a career in factories, in machine operations, and really happy with their lot in life working at a cargo port, great job. She found herself isolated and targeted, was screaming, and eventually was assaulted and sexually harassed. And then after she reported the incidents, her life deteriorated at work. She missed pay, there was extra paperwork, unnecessary questioning from management over owed annual leave. So she engaged Maurice Blackburn, and their specialist lawyers helped her navigate the best course of action to receive the damages that she was rightfully entitled to with an out-of-court settlement. And despite her former employer providing resistance through every step, Tracy was awarded a payout to not only provide financial security after being left unemployed, but to assist with the necessary therapy to help her move on to the next chapter of her life. So Maurice Blackburn, working for hard-working Australian people every single day of the year. 30 offices across Australia, very easy to access their lawyers by phone, online in the usual way, and you can find all that information in our show notes. Maurice Blackburn are our principal partner on The Final Word, season 19 of the show. Jeff?
Check them out now. I promised you a confluence of coincidence here, and a couple of things happened at the book launch last night which were extraordinary. One, we have a few numbers that we know are coming in next on the list that we're looking at and trying to solve. One of those, which I didn't really need to try to solve, even though Ramana solved it for us, I knew it as soon as I saw it. So Ramana is a listener from California. They very generously decided to throw in a nerd pledge of $236. Not go on the $2.36, go on the full $2.36.
Amazing.
Which we appreciate very much. And as soon as I saw it, I went, Sunil Gavaskar, long time highest test score for India, until Lakshman took it over. The reason that I think about it so much is that it was such a feature of that Lakshman innings was, could he pass this Gavaskar mark that had stood for so long as the best performance by an Indian man in test cricket. Ramana was at the book launch last night.
Yep.
Lives in California, happened to be in London for
by
a couple
sheer
of days.
Coincidence. It was like he heard on the show that we were doing the launch on 10 November. He's like, hang on,
I can be there.
I'm there on 10 November. I'm going to drop in. It was terrific to meet him and to sign his book.
So that was really nice to have a chat but that he was literally on the list to solve. I'm not going to do that number today because I want to do more Gavaskar research before I commit myself to throwing myself into a number of that magnitude. But the other coincidence is that Paul Seddon has been on the list for a few weeks now because I've been staring at this clue and trying to figure it out. The number is $2.46 or £2.46. And the clue was just this single line which said, "Take a breather, Jeff."
Oh, that's right. This came up in our panel chat with Daniel Norcross from nowhere.
But I've been looking at this and maybe this is arrogance, maybe this is just logical. I just assumed it was addressed to me. I was like, what are you trying to tell me?
Oh, right.
What are you trying to tell me, Paul? Because it's spelt with my spelling, with the G. And I didn't contemplate other Jeffs, and maybe that's a failing of mine. But I didn't want to ask him for a clue because I thought surely we can try to figure this out. But I still hadn't figured it out. And then last night, Daniel Norcross is interviewing us and he says, "How many episodes have there been?" You say 245, and so he says, "So the next one you're recording is 246, and somebody in the crowd yells out, "Jeff Boycott." He's like, "Oh yes, the 246.
Oh, the 246.
The 246
And you went, "Hang on a minute."
And I went, "Fuck, that's the answer."
Because the bit that followed next, you were sure of it when Daniel added, and you'll articulate here why.
Yes.
Daniel went on to add a bit more, and you're like, "Oh gosh, the clue makes complete sense now."
That's it. It is the answer.
Ideal.
And subsequently, I've realised in our chat, I think a couple of the people we work with to try to solve these clues had an inkling that it might have been to do with this as well, but I hadn't caught up on that. And so I had this moment of realisation in the middle of this panel discussion. The bright light went on. Take a breather, Jeff. 246 is the score that Jeff Boycott makes when he gets dropped afterwards for batting too slowly. Take a breather. Chill out. Okay. So, as well as being an exercise in humility that not everything is about me, and I'm not the most prominent Jeff in cricket, sad as that may be, even spelt with a G, although I'd like to think I have some qualities that might exceed those of the other one. Definitely more people know who he is, for better or for worse. Now, being Theresa May's hero is something that's rather questionable, but there were plenty of people who admired Boycott's obduracy, bloody-mindedness, all the rest of it, which were the qualities that helped him succeed as a player, but also the qualities that led to the problems like refusing to play for England for whatever it was, 2 or 3 years, when he just decided that he wasn't captain, so he wasn't going to bother to show up.
The blow-up in 74, when he wasn't made captain, and then not going in 74, 75 to Australia, which was always one of these things that were like, really?
Yeah,
it would have helped. It would have helped a lot had Boycott been available.
Would have helped a fair
having
bit.
Their best player available for a series like that. This came up when,
given that they SOS'd Cowdrey to come out.
Yeah, and I watched that Cowdrey innings from Perth on YouTube recently, actually. To think that at age 42 or whatever it was.
It's kind of sad that we both watched that in the last 3 weeks.
It's on brand. It's on brand, that's for sure. I was doing. Was I obsessed with Oh, that's right. I've been reading the 54-55 book, which is unbelievable. It is so detailed and so good. I'm about halfway through it, but I'm like, fuck me, how have you reconstructed these matches with such extraordinary levels of detail? It'll be on book club eventually. And Cowdrey, that's a big part of his story. That's his first time playing Test cricket and so on. And I must have popped it into Google, and one thing leads to another, and I'm watching him bat in 1974 in Perth. Anyway.
Yeah. So I'm not going to say that Boycott was, the popular theory is, he's scared of Lillian Thompson, didn't want to face fast bowling. He faced plenty of fast bowling, but I can get behind, I think maybe it was your interpretation that maybe he realised it wasn't going to be good for his numbers, and maybe the impetus to go, the enthusiasm to go wasn't quite there.
I think it just goes to him. It goes to his personality, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It goes to his personality that he was made, toys out the cot stuff when he wasn't made captain.
Yeah. But the fact that they were SOSing players and he still wasn't there to put his hand up and say, well, obviously you need some help, I'll come and do that. But this is later, that's in the 70s. This is the 1960s when he's a relatively junior player. So, and there's a lot of talk in the 60s, Adam, about, they keep using the phrase brighter cricket. We want to see a brighter style of cricket, which is interesting. Like, you have a lot of slow games through the 50s, but you also have iconic series performances. You've got Typhoon Tyson in the 50s, you've got Benno at Old Trafford in the 50s, you've got Jim Laker, 19 wickets in the 50s. It's not like interesting things don't happen on cricket fields in the 50s, but you get 60-61, the West Indies tour of Australia with Benno and revitalising cricket and playing bright, attractive cricket and all the rest of it. And then it doesn't kick on. It certainly doesn't kick on in England, where there are a lot of draws. It's quite attritional. It's not all draws. Like I had a look at England at home across the entirety of the 1960s. They played 53, they drew 19, they won 23, they lost 11. So it's not more than 50%, but I think even a lot of the wins were slow, drawn out sort of wins. And so there was this dissatisfaction with the style of play. And
don't win that way.
Yeah, don't win like that.
Win, but don't win that way.
Don't win like that. No, better to do it Ben Stokes style and lose more, but win a bunch, but don't take the draws out of the equation. I don't know. People are unhappy with the slow pace of play, basically, and there is discontent. There is growing discontent against it, and it's 1965 when Ken Barrington gets dropped after making 100. He's playing New Zealand. They're not very good. He makes 137. He's last man out. He takes 437 minutes to make that score, which is, 7 hours and 17 minutes. That is a very long time to make 130.
It is indeed.
And the England's against a team who, with all respect, were not a very high-level Test cricket team at the time. England selectors flick him. So this is only 2 years later, 2 summers after that, when Boycott suits up against India, also not the strongest touring team, lose a couple of their best bowlers to injury on the first day. Boycott's already known as a slow innings kind of player. I was looking at the innings that he played before this. He'd been on the scene for 3 years. There's like one hilarious anomaly where he makes 22 off 18 balls against Australia in Adelaide, strike rate of 120, and then gets out. It must have been outside edges, so I can't see it being deliberate. But basically, if he makes a semi-decent score of, say, 30 or 40 plus, he's generally doing it at a strike rate in the 30s. He's going along at a very slow rate.
He has his own rhythm, yeah.
He goes to South Africa, he makes 73 off 284 balls. He makes 117 off 396 balls. Strike rates in the 20s for those innings. He has a crawl. And 1967 hasn't yet played a test, so the first test of the season's coming up. But he's not doing very well for Yorkshire. He's made an early season ton against Glamorgan, who aren't very strong. Then he's made a pair against Kent. Norman Graham, the bowler who gets him out in both innings. And that starts a run where over a month he goes 0, 0, 6, 4, 0, 24, 60, 24, 6. So 9 innings, 124 runs, averaging 13, and that's a month of his county life where they're playing a lot. So he's not feeling very good. He's not feeling confident. He's not sure he'll get picked. He does get picked. Tiger Patowdy is the captain of India. Hell yeah. Chandu Borde is there. Anytime I see Chandu Borde on a scorecard, I'm happy. Robin Hobbs is there for England.
He's still my beating heart.
Right. First test, it's at Leeds, so it's Yorkshireman, home ground, all the rest of it. He's determined to stick it out, more so when John Edrich gets out early to Rusi Surti, the Queenslander, famous Queenslander, Rusi Surti. And with some degree of irony, Boycott's batting with Ken Barrington, who was dropped 2 years earlier, but who's scoring a bit more quickly on this particular day. Boycott does not. There's a period of 45 minutes in the first session where he doesn't score at all. He makes 25 by lunch on day one, Boycott. He picks up a bit in the second session, makes 50 runs even the second session. That's okay. But India's bowling is developing problems. So they've got the spin trio, what becomes the famous spin trio. They've got Chandrasekhar, they've got Bishan Bedi, and they've got Prasanna. But they're young incarnations. Bedi's 20 years old. Chandrasekhar's 22. Prasanna's a little bit older, maybe 26 or 7, but they're not the powerhouse they'll become in the 70s.
Not the finished product,
no,
yeah.
They're starting out. Rusi Surti is the all-rounder, bowls 11 overs, gets smashed on the knee by a shot and can't bowl. Bedi pulls a muscle, he's bowled 15 overs, he can't bowl. In the end, 9 Indian players bowl in the innings. 2 of their frontline bowlers down. It's a flatty. Barrington makes 93, Graveney 59, D'Oliveira makes 100 the next day. They make 550 for 4 in the end. But particularly, I think it's that last session on day one, Boycott, 2 bowlers down, still won't play a fucking shot. Makes 31 in the session, in the final session, which is probably extended, of day one. When you think about, say, Bradman 309 in a day,
yeah,
that's when you're going, okay, you made 106. You made 106 against a mid-range bowling attack that's missing players on day one. And people are pissed. They paid to watch this. The coverage at the time suggests that he was blocking full tosses. I don't know if this is specifically true, like literally true, but maybe. He's and he gets flamed in the papers overnight. There are newspapers saying he should be sacked basically while he's not out overnight on 106. Go and get him out. And they're citing the Barrington case. They're saying, well, have the Barrington. Get rid of him. And I think they needle him a bit because he comes out the next day and scores a bit faster and ends up at 246 not out by the time they declare. India are 6 wickets down. Brian Close, who's captaining this side, is very public in a display of support. When they declare, he goes out and puts his arm around Boycott's shoulders and makes sure that everybody sees that I am very happy with this performance from my player as the captain of England. So India get bowled out for a low score, and then they go huge after the follow-on. Tiger Patowdi, what a man, makes 148 down at 6, puts on a bunch of runs with Bishan Bedi batting at 10, who goes for over an hour. Takes them into a lead. They get up to 125. They set a target of 125 by the time Tiger's out. And England do not send Boycott out to chase the 125.
Make the statement.
They don't send him out at first drop either, or second, or third. They end up 4 wickets down by the time they chase the total, and Boycott is not batted. And they say that it's because he'd twisted his ankle while he was fielding, and so they were holding him back. But it seems more like they were worried that they wouldn't actually get the 125 on day 5 if he was at bat. So, at 4 down, if he was genuinely injured and wasn't able to appear, then, had India made another 50 or so, that could have got interesting. But England win late on day 5. They've had a rest day, so it's been a long, slow game, even though they've been on top throughout. The resentment remains. The selectors meet. They say they want Boycott out. Brian Close votes against it, says he advocates for Boycott. Boycott says he obviously didn't advocate hard enough. Boycott's view on it is very self-serving. I think it's in one of his books where he says he's completely justified in taking his time because he was in bad nick, and so he had to make sure he didn't get out, and there was no point throwing his wicket away, and he did this and he did that, and gets stuck into Brian Close saying that he should have done more with selectors. He said, I think the quote is, "He didn't go into bat for me." And my response is, maybe he did go into bat for you, but just really, really slowly. And the meeting had finished by the time he'd got his first 10 words out. Everyone had got tired and gone home. There's a comment from the selectors that he's being excluded for selfish batting, and that's the bit that really pisses off Boycott. So he stays pissed off about it. But just like Ken Barrington, it's kind of a what do you call it, a symbolic dropping. Because Barrington gets brought back 1 test later.
Yep.
Boycott gets brought back 1 test later. It's like a little punishment, a little naughty corner bit. But Boycott's pissed off about it forever. The relationship with Brian Close is affected, and we talked about Brian Close a couple of months ago about how he got sacked at the end of the season for time wasting in a county game. That's this same summer. So both of them were punished for time management issues in the game.
We should punish more people for time management issues.
And just to have one last little, find a way to do it. One last
in
little
life
link.
More broadly.
Ramana with his story about Sonny and Boyks. That was the show that they did together. Gavaskar and Boycott did a show together in like the...
What, a TV show?
70s? In India? Or 80s? Yeah,
right.
80s. Would have been... maybe...
It would have been 90s.
90s
No, they worked together on TV in the
yes.
90s. A Few Good Men, wasn't it? It was Blofeld, Boycott, Gavaskar, Bogley.
Christ.
This was a thing.
Yeah. So, he finishes up, always having this resentment about the fact that he was labelled and being pretty pissed off about the fact, but that was the day that he made an unbeaten double 100 and got left out of the Test team.
Thank you, Jeff.
Adam, you are next and last for today. Duncan Thomas with $6.26. It's in AUD. Duncan says, not the first day of cricket I ever went to, but the one that grabbed my love of the game up to now. Not an Ashes Test officially, with a scheduled rest day, drama on and off the field, and history repeating itself. It's all just a little bit of history repeating. Is this? I haven't seen your answer. Is this Centenary Test?
Of course it is.
Yes.
Yeah, it is.
Our most talked about Test match.
It is. But that's okay, because what Duncan's provided me here is an opportunity to do it a different way.
Okay.
So, history repeating, 45-run margin. Thank you, Duncan, for giving us the chance to reference that for the
and to sing Shirley Bassey.
Indeed. Look, this is going to be about DK's remarkable 6 for 26 to begin his own Centenary Test with
DK
the ball.
Lilly, not Delissa
Lilly.
Kimmins or Dinesh Karthik.
Correct. By the way, I saw a Cricket Australia media release yesterday talking about a major announcement about the Sesame Centenary Test. I'm like, I was going to put something up on Twitter saying, hopefully it's their backflip saying it's an absolutely dreadful idea to have 90-year-old, 80-year-old, 90-year-old, whatever, 70-year-old men and indeed women, because I'm sure there'll be some women who are flown out as well to be, at the cricket, getting out of the G at 11:15 at night. But it wasn't. It was simply a ballot for the tickets. So no backflip on that insane decision to make it a pink ball Test match as yet. Do you think there'll be some point in our lives when anything other than extracting every dollar out of every situation will come first? Like, will there be some point when the integrity of the games we're involved in? Like I saw this week the branding of what they expanded the final series to 10 teams in the footy this week, and it has to be called Wildcard Weekend.
They did.
It has to be called Wildcard Weekend because of the American nomenclature. They've expanded the finals to 10 next year. So 7th will play 10th, 8th will play 9th in a play-in tournament. But then the chief executive Andrew Dillon said no, there'll be finals games as well. They won't be declared. So it's not a play-in tournament like it is in some American sports. It's just a final series. Final series will go for 5 weeks. And we'll have 10 teams. They've just expanded
it to make it so that you can finish 10th out of 18.
They've expanded it so they can say Wildcard Weekend because it's American. It's just all the same bullshit. And I accept that they're playing more games of footy, and there's an argument for that. Play 2 more games of footy, get rid of the bye weekend. I mean, I don't like it. I think 8.
There's not an argument for finishing lower than 50% in the comp and
what do you know?
finals.
I did the sums on this. I wasn't planning on raising this, but seeing as I've done this and I've posted
I'm glad
it,
I didn't notice earlier because I would have been annoyed earlier.
Yeah, well, I had a look. I went back and reviewed every final system and a number of teams since World War II, and I did post it, and I'll pad for time for no more than 20 seconds. Here it is. Between 1946 and 1971, 33% of teams made it. 1972 to 1986, 41.7. 87 to 1990, 35.7. 1991 to 1993, 40%. Then the aberration of 1994, when they brought in the final 8 with 15 teams, 53%. Then the next system from 95 to 2010, 50, which was 8 out of 16.
Yep.
Then when the expansion teams came in Gold Coast and GWS, 47.1, and since 2012 it's been 44.4. 2 more teams will make it 55.5, which will be comfortably the highest percentage of teams making finals since World War II.
You can't be worse than halfway and still get to play for a flag.
Well, like I say, I get the idea of wanting to have more games in that bye week. I'm not saying I'd support it. I'm fine with the lower percentage. 44.4 is fine by me. But just call it for what it is. It's a final 10. And if it's a final 10, develop a better system, i.e. the final 5 is the best system we've ever had. Let's have 2 final 5s on either side of the draw. Now, I've even given them a model. 1, 4, 5, 8 and 9 in one half. 2, 3, 6, 7 and 10 on the other half. 2 final 5s. Crossover with the prelims. I don't support doing final 10, but that's fine. The play-in tournament, calling it finals, it's just, again, it is what it is. This is cultural cringe all over again, 30 years later. This is us not believing enough in what we are as a nation, that we have to constantly defer to America. Who is deferring to America?
Which is a basket case.
Well, but who's doing that in 2025? No. I can understand 50 years ago, we've used 50 years ago today as a reference. I can understand 50 years ago with the cultural dominance of America that you would naturally have your head turned by the States all the time. Who's turning their head to the States now? Who is enthralled to the States right now?
Yeah, we're going to honour the history of 150 years of Test cricket by making sure this match resembles the smallest proportion of matches that have been played in that format.
Because it's played at night anyway. Centenary Test, which is what I was going to tell you about.
More people will watch it. If people can't be bothered to watch it during the day, then fuck them.
But this is where, I understand there'll probably be, it'll be in the margins, but more money made by dint of doing it this way. But just for this 1 week, can the Sesame Centenary Test...
not if it's over in 2.5 days and they don't even make it to the weekend.
Precisely. If they don't even make it to the weekend, that's one thing. But for 1 week, can we go, this is more important.
Yes.
This is about the players that have come before. This is about the octogenarians travelling from the other side of the world. It's about them too, and not meaning that they'll be, and you can say, they can stay up a bit later. Of course they can, but that's not usually the...
Well, equally, someone can take a day off work, Oh, well, you can't do that because people can attend at night. Okay, well, if people aren't sufficiently motivated...
Then why don't we play every test a day-nighter? Exactly. If that's the argument, then let's dispense with the day test matches for all of them. Let's go to all pink ball cricket, because all of it, theoretically, will be easier to attend at night, the way that it's constructed.
I don't think any of this is your answer for Nerd Pledge.
It's not. Centenary Test, Lilly 6 for 26. God, they needed him because Australia were all out 138 on day one. England rissoled for 95. Lilly 6 for 26. He steamrolled through the top order. Woolmer, Brealey, Randall. And then he came back and knocked over the tail, which gave Australia a healthy lead. The second innings where Australia make 419 for 9 declared, with Rob Marsh's famous 110 not out, and McCosker down the list hooking mummified, and then Australia defend 463, bowling them out for 417 on the final day. Randall 174. There are the cliff notes there of the Centenary
Test. Is that the first
Test.
keeper ton? First Aussie keeper ton? Does he have one before that?
It would have to be. Was it his first Test ton? He made 3 or 4, didn't he? That's probably his first, I'd say. Oh no, hang on.
3. He made 3.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know that. 4. I'm surprised I don't know that.
Healy 4, Haddon 4, Marsh 3.
Let's just quickly pivot though, because even though I want Duncan to learn more about Lilly 6 for 26, I feel like I might have a better story than that. Because there are so many storylines out of that Test match, which are very worthy. And one of them, and by the way, Lilly's record against England is exceptional in non-Ashes Test matches, and we're in the middle of that Guardian countdown of Lilly's record in just Ashes affairs. Isn't England-Australia Test cricket is far better than Ashes in isolation. I don't know if you had that as a judge on that panel. I thought that through.
There's that anomalous period where they play, quite a few non-Ashes Test matches between 75 and 81, 82.
In the interest of brevity, I'm going to move straight on to another piece of research. You know how we sometimes cite other people's research in our answers? I'm going to cite my own.
Yes.
Because the story that I like most from the Centenary Test, which had never been done on Storytime, because I wrote it before Storytime started, came via the passing of Roger Bannister. Now, Roger Bannister passed away in March 2018, the man of the 4-minute mile. And Mike Selby tweeted, the great John Walker ran a sub 4-minute mile on a track laid out on the outfield on the MCG during a Centenary Test. And at the time I'm like, he did what? How's that not part of the conversation? The great John Walker, who'd won the 1500 metre gold at Montreal only months before it, who went on to become the man who ran more 4-minute miles than anybody. He ran 100 of them, I believe. How do we not know that he ran a 4-minute mile during the Centenary Test? So I thought I'd Google it and look it up, and of course it didn't come up anywhere. So I kept working on this. I spoke to Selv at the time and interviewed him and go, tell me everything you remember and maybe that'll help me find a clue. And we went through this, and obviously that Centenary Test has so many wonderful things like Jack Ryder at 87 leading out the Australians, Percy Fender at 79 leading out the Englishmen. They've played together against each other back in 1920, 21. These wonderful moments, Lilly, Marsh, Hooks's 5-4s, Tony Gregg, Rick McCosker, Derek Randall, the collapses, the chase, the Queen coming out with one session to go. It's such an enormous week, but to throw into the mixer here, the third day, which is when this test is turning into a classic, by the way. Day 3 is when it really ramped up. It was the day of Rick McCosker going out there, hooking down the list, having had his jaw broken by Bob Willis in the first innings. My dad was there that day, his first day of Test cricket. He remembers the crowd singing Waltzing McCosker as he sat atop the Ponsford stand not long after it had been opened up. He remembers
getting a great run home on the freeway and beat the traffic.
He was only 15, so he couldn't have driven. As my dad said in this article I've got here, 55,399 people were there, but 500,000 say they were to watch David Hooks hit his 5-4s in a row against Tony Gregg that day. But before lunch, Walker got changed into his running kit, his famous black New Zealand running kit. And Mike Selby was 12th man and saw him getting changed. Those big thick thighs that he referred to. And he'd remembered it as him walking out on the G at lunch and running a 4-minute mile, the Centenary mile. Didn't quite play out that way. I interviewed a whole bunch of people. One of the runners that day was Dr. Peter Larkins, who was a very famous media identity when we were growing up in medical, in the footy really.
Still knocking around on footy coverage.
Yeah. And this is a great tradition of middle distance runners, from Herb Elliott to Peter Snell, Ron Clark, John Landy. It's a great era for middle distance running, both in New Zealand and Australia. So the Centenary Mile had a fair bit of oomph to it. And Graham Crouch, who was the main competitor to John Walker in Australia anyway, was meant to run, then he pulled out. And Walker was a bit shitty about that. So he, as it was described to me by Jim Maxwell, who just covered his first test a few months before when Australia played Pakistan, and he spent the week carousing and socialising with John Arlott and Helen McGilvray. and interviewing Stork Henry. You remember him telling me that. Walker sat at the back of the pack till about 400 metres to go and ran a 54-second last 400 to clock in at 4:05. And he didn't run the 4-minute mile, but he did blitz he overtook the whole field in the last lap. And the reason he sat back, he was a little bit cross at the fact that Graham Crouch had pulled out at the last minute, and he didn't view that as
because that would have been a pacemaking opportunity, basically.
And also he thought, well, why is my best competitor not running in this race? Mike Sheehan remembered it. I spoke to him. He'd been covering that day. He remembered having to run up to the Hilton Hotel and get David Hooks in person because he missed the press conference. So back in those days, go up to the hotel and interview the player yourself before deadline. It was a wonderful thing working on this story, which no one had ever really done before. They gave them all what do you call it? Not a goblet. What's the thing where you put your pens in, like a
cup?
Like a steel mug type thing.
Right.
Not a goblet. I don't know.
Yeah,
anyway,
tankard.
Tankard. That's it. Which Peter Larkins to this day
synonyms for mugs.
Still keeps all of his pens on his desk in that because he ran the Centenary Mile against the great John Walker. And at the very end of this story, I would say that I picked up the phone and called him. I spoke to John Walker, got an email for him, and he has Parkinson's disease for a long time by that point. His speech was shaky, but he was very grateful. He said to me, Selvey originally was thrilled that I got to the bottom of it, and Walker, when I spoke to him, said, "You're the first person to bring this up for over 40 years. And yes, he added that I remember going down the back straight, being a fair way behind, and realising that if I didn't get into gear, I wasn't going to catch them. So I took off and won quite easily in the end. Thank you for bringing it up." So it was an absolute privilege of my career to speak to a man who, you go back and watch that Commonwealth Games final in Christchurch in '74 or the Olympic final in '76, two of the great 1500 metre races, and there wasn't a 4-minute mile ran at the Centenary Test, but boy, oh boy, he nearly did, despite having sat at the back of the pack for the whole thing. So Selv was nearly right, and that's another story from that week in Melbourne in 1977. I hope you enjoyed it. Our new pleasure, Duncan Thomas.
Very good, and that means that it's time for us to have a net. Thanks to Hitz Cricket for hosting us. Time to whack a few. It's been
Dingers.
Story time. If you want to get involved, patreon.com/thefinalword. Please do. That's how you send in a nerd pledge and get on the show. Maybe you get in a book, maybe you score yourself a beer. We will see about all of those things. Patreon.com/thefinalword. The information for everything else is in the show notes. The book is out. The pre-order links are out. Get yourself one of those. Get 10 other people one of those. Buy them for 50 people for Christmas. It'll make things much easier. And that's it. Adam Collins, Jeff Lemon. The other way around. Final word, story time 246. See you later.
Have a nice weekend.